back here again. We are out down the road from my house. You hear the beautiful crickets in the background. Maybe you do. And it is a lovely, lovely, lovely right now, Monday evening. We are by the railroad track that's down the road from my house. Children, carefully, listen carefully. Do not play around railroad tracks. Okay, I will not be going on the track. We are just kind of by them. If a train is going to come here, we are going to skedaddle. And you won't see this because we will start recording it over again a second time. But just, I'm telling you, please, please, please do not play by the railroad tracks. I'm just here for some pretty scenery, me and my pineapple. So, this week, I'd like to take a closer look at our memory verse of the month. That's being Philippians 4:13, which says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. What does that verse actually mean? Can I really do anything I want? Well, let's take a little look at it. This verse is one of the most used and most misused verses in the Bible. It can be taken out of context and be made to mean whatever it is somebody wants it to mean. What do I mean by out of context, you ask? Well, I've heard Pastor Chris say many times that you can't take Bible verses out of context and expect to understand them like fully. What that means is you can't usually just read one verse and expect to know exactly what the writer means. You often have to read the verses that are before it, the verses that follow, and even try to put yourself in the place of the writer to fully understand what it is that he or she, I guess, is trying to say to you. A good example is found in the Gospel of John, chapter 11, verse 35, which is the shortest verse in the Bible. It simply says, Jesus wept. That's it. Jesus wept. That's all it says. But what does that mean? Did Jesus just go around weeping all of the time? Or did he have a reason for weeping at that particular time? To understand why Jesus wept at that time, you have to read the full story. All of the verses about his weeping that came before John 11:35, verses that followed. And to even get a fuller understanding, you should read all four Gospels to give you a better understanding of Jesus and why he wept at that time. It's a powerful story. I hope to talk with you about that one day, but for now, let's get back to our original verse here. Philippians 4:13 was written by the Apostle Paul after his conversion, as he was working hard to get the Christian church started. Paul was in prison in Rome, and for the next 2 years, he urged churches by writing letters written from prison. His letters to the Philippians was just one of 4 letters he wrote while in prison. We know from the book of Acts that Paul had visited the church of Philippi during his second and third journeys through the area. Even after he left, Paul kept a warm relationship with the Philippians, who were very eager in helping Paul during his ministry. While Paul was thankful for their help, Paul also used his time in prison to remind his fellow believers that having enough money to get by on and one's physical condition are not a sign of one's spiritual health and well-being. As he writes, "For I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or living in want." That means whether having a lot or having just a little, he's learned to live happily through that. Finding happiness in difficult times is difficult for even the strongest believer. When times are tough and things aren't going well, the way we plan, this is the perfect time to feel frustrated, sadness, and the feeling of not wanting to do anything, to start. That is why we need Christ's strength to teach us to be calm and not be sad about things all of the time. Paul understood this better than most. In his letter to the Corinthians, he wrote, "Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." And in Philippians 4:13, Paul follows his talk on calmness and happiness with the now famous words, "I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength." In fact, in the New International Version translation, it is written, "I can do all this through him who gives me strength." And what is this to which Paul was talking about? It is the ability to find calmness and happiness during whatever is happening, which Paul argues can only come from Christ who gives him strength. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, indeed. Let's pray. God of all comfort, I know that with you by my side, I am never alone. Your perfect love casts out all fear, doubt, and uncertainty. Your presence emboldens and empowers me. You are the light that leads me to safety again. And all of God's children say,